He looked the entire boardroom in the eye and said, "This was my concept from the start." Sitting right there, me, 3 chairs down, the woman who built the whole thing from scratch. So, background. I work in marketing at a mid-sized company, been there 4 years, and I genuinely like my job. My boss, Derek, is fine, mostly harmless. The kind of guy who forwards your emails with one line added and somehow gets the reply all praise. I noticed that pattern, but honestly, I let it slide because the work was interesting and I wasn't trying to make enemies. 3 weeks ago, we had a big pitch coming up, a full campaign overhaul for our top client. Derek told me to put something together. No brief, no direction, just vibes. So I stayed late, I built a strategy deck from zero. I designed the segmentation model, wrote the copy angles, sourced the data. 40 some slides. I sent it to Derek the night before the meeting and went home feeling genuinely good about it. Walked into that boardroom the next morning with coffee and absolutely zero warning for what was about to happen. Derek opens his laptop. My deck is on the screen. Okay, fine, he's presenting it. That's normal. I don't need the spotlight. But then he says, I spent the last couple of weeks developing this framework. And I actually looked around to see if anyone else caught that. Nobody reacted, so I figured maybe he just misspoke. Then the VP of accounts, let's call her Sandra, goes, Derek, this segmentation model is really sophisticated. Where did this come from? And Derek, without a single flinch, goes, that's something I've been sitting with for a while. Pulled from some proprietary thinking I've been developing. Pro PR thinking. I built that model in a Google Sheet on a Tuesday night eating leftover pasta. I raised my hand, calm, totally calm, and I said, I can actually walk us through the data behind that model if it's helpful. Giving him every chance to go, oh yes, this is work my team put together. Basic, gracious, easy out. He goes, we'll circle back on logistics later, and kept talking. Beat 2, Sandra asks about the copy angles, specifically the emotional pull framing on slide 22. Derek goes, yeah, that's a storytelling approach I've been pushing the team toward. I wrote every single word on that slide. I have the version history. I have the draft timestamps. My name is in the document properties. I said I actually drafted that section specifically, happy to speak to the research behind it. Friendly, professional, giving him the world. He goes, and I need you to hear this. She helped with some of the formatting. Formatting. I helped with formatting. Okay. The meeting ends. Everyone's filing out, shaking Derek's hand, telling him great work. And I waited. Waited until it was the two of us and Sandra, who'd stayed back to ask a follow-up. I said, Derek, I want to make sure the team's contributions are accurately represented going forward. That deck was built by me. I sent it to you at 9:47 p.m. the night before this meeting. I'm happy to share the file history if that's useful. And he went red, like actually red. And then he laughed this short, dismissive laugh and said, I don't think this is the time or place to talk about internal credit structures. Internal credit structures. I said, I think right now is actually a great time, since Sandra is here, and she asked directly who developed the model. That's when he got loud. He goes, you're being incredibly unprofessional right now. I directed this project. I give the feedback, I set the vision, you execute. That's how this works. I don't know why you think a junior employee putting together slides entitles her to stand up in a client meeting and undermine me. The room got very still. Sandra was not moving. And I said, and yeah, maybe this is where I crossed a line for some people, I said. I have every draft, every timestamp, and every version saved. And I'm going to forward all of it to HR this afternoon, so everyone has the full picture. Just so there are no surprises. He stared at me, I smiled. Sandra was quiet. I sent the email that afternoon. Full document history, version timestamps, the original email chain where Derek said, in writing, put a deck together for Thursday. CC'd my HR contact, CC'd my skip level manager. 2 days later, I get called into a meeting with my skip level, a woman named Patricia. Derek is not there. Patricia slides a printed copy of my email across the table and says, we went back through the file metadata. Everything you said checks out. She paused. Derek has been asked to formally correct the record with the client team, in writing, with your name on the work. I watched Derek send that correction email from across the open office, watched him type it, watched his shoulders cave in like a folding chair. Then Patricia said, out loud, in front of the two other managers in the room, going forward, Your work will be credited directly. And we'd like to talk about your role here because this deck was genuinely strong. And Derek was right there for all of it, heard every word. Now, did I have to say that thing about HR in front of Sandra? Probably could have handled it quieter. Some people have told me I burned a bridge I didn't need to burn. And maybe. But I also think about every version of that conversation where I pulled him aside privately and it went nowhere and nobody ever knew. Honestly, though, what would you have done? Comment below.